I just ran through a model that computed the net present value so we could compare two alternative cash flow streams. Now I want to show you a function in Excel that condenses a lot of the calculations into one function. If we go up here and we do a search in Excel for NPV, it will collapse lots of different calculations into one formula. NPV stands for net present value. And the syntax here is you enter the discount rate and then a series of values, which I've already tabulated in Excel. So let's see how that works. The discount rate is going to be found here in H21. And the series of values in this cash flow diagram are right underneath in column B. Let's see what NPV calculates. Boom, 357,789. You can see that's the same as we got here when I computed the net present value of every single individual year of income and then summed them all up. So in this way, NPV is a little bit of a shortcut in Excel, and that might be useful to know how to use. Let's do it for the next one and see if it checks out again. There it is, 674,702, exact same values we got when we sort of did it the long way. Here's what's really interesting. The net present value function is sort of simplistic in Excel. It's very easy for us to do this by hand, kind of long form. But there's another function called internal rate of return. An internal rate of return simplifies or condenses a much more complicated calculation. Let's take a look at how IRR works in Excel. Here's the IRR, and what it's asking us for is to input a column or maybe a row of values and then sometimes get it started with a guess about what we think the internal rate of return might be. Now, internal rate of return can be a little wonky. That is, sometimes if we don't make a very good guess, the search algorithm that tests thousands, millions of calculations looking for that correct internal rate of return can lose its way. So the guess is important to try and get a reliable answer out of Excel's search function. Excel is using guess and check to calculate the internal rate of return. Let's see how that goes. The first thing that we got to do is input the column of values. And then the second thing that we got to do is make a guess about the internal rate of return. I'm going to start with 0.2, which would be 20% per year. It's super important to acknowledge that the internal rate of return will be computed in units that are the same as the time difference between the compounding periods. So we're compounding annually. The internal rate of return will be in percent per year. And it doesn't look like it found one. That kind of stinks, doesn't it? I think the reason it didn't find one in this case is because there's no investment. Internal rate of return is computed based upon the assumption that there will be an investment first. That is, you're going to go into the negative and then get a positive stream of benefits later on. So when we try internal rate of return based upon something that is all positive, it's like infinity. But what happens if we subtract one cash flow diagram from the other so that now we can establish the difference between the two cash flow diagrams? To do that, I'm going to modify this column. So now this cash flow diagram is just going to be the difference between taking a job or staying in school and getting the degree. And then I'm going to use that same internal rate of return function for this set of columns for this column that starts out negative and then turns positive. I'm going to guess the same thing, 0.2. Now we get that 24%. The 24% that is the same as we got when we did our own guess and check in the previous video. That is when I'm changing the discount rate in cell H21 to try and figure out what makes this present value equal to this present value, I had to type in 24%. And now look at how close they are. That's the same guess and check that Excel automates when they do the internal rate of return formula. If I want a little more precision, boom, 24.4. And how would I find that manually? I'd try 24.1. Are they equal? Well, they're very close. 24.2. Are they equal? Well, they're very close. 24.3. Getting closer. 24.4. 93,274 and 93,152 is as close as we need to get. Excel automates that guess and check to compute an internal rate of return for any cash flow series that is a mix of negative and positive. And when you're using the internal rate of return method to compute or to compare alternatives, Excel is an extremely convenient way to do it.